Okay, listeners, so there are a few things you probably know about me. One is that I'm on the road a lot. Two is that I walk a lot. I love to walk. And also that I live in New Hampshire. And the weather here is pretty unpredictable, doesn't matter the season, and it's wet a lot. So there are these great new shoes that I have been so lucky to be able to wear. They are from Vessi, and they are called the Courtside Classic. That's me. So I love the way that these look. I love that they're waterproof. They're super comfortable, which every Vessi shoe that I've had has been incredibly comfortable. So if you are interested in getting an incredibly stylish and versatile and absolutely functional pair of sneakers, the Courtside Classic, these are the ones you want to go with. Head out in the rain with the Courtside Classic, Vessi's 90s inspired sneakers. Discover more waterproof styles at vessi.com/flusterclux. Get your pair today to get an automatic 15% off your first purchase at checkout. Parents are really afraid when their kids feel things. Moods are normal. It is not a problem for your child to go through a bad mood, to be irritable, to be grumpy, to be short. If it's protracted, we want to pay attention. But it's really not helpful if you freak out, if you start to panic, if you feel like there's something wrong because my child's in a bad mood. Being in a bad mood is a normal part of life, and it's really a normal part of adolescence.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Robin.
Guess what's happened in my house today?
Oh, let's hear it.
My youngest is 13, so I now have a house of teenagers.
You do have a house of teenagers.
But the one cool thing is that I got to hold a 3-month-old baby today.
You did?
Which I haven't held a baby in a really long time.
Who had a baby?
Oh, my friend. We had a nice little lunch and I got to hold a 3-month-old whose hair stuck up to the top of her head and then did a little curl. It was so cute. It's interesting. You go through these different chapters in parenting, and I am delighted and optimistic about being here now and embracing all that's actually great about teenagers. Because here's what I've always loved about teenagers. They are no BS detectors.
Yeah, that's true.
I love that. I love observations of piercing straight to the point. I love they're really quick to identify injustices. I love a lot of things about that teenage spirit. And maybe there are a few snuggles left here and there.
Yeah, they discover hypocrisy.
Yes.
Right? They discover hypocrisy, both in the world and in their parents. So that's interesting. They ask big questions. They start to ponder things in a different way. And then for parents, it's a time when we really have to allow them to express themselves and to come up with ideas and to say things that we don't necessarily agree with. And so parenting them is a whole different ballgame. There's an author who wrote a book many years ago, and he said that when you're parenting a teenager, you move from manager to consultant. And I've always liked that language.
We had a fashion discussion. He had this thing. He was like, I think I'd like to start wearing X. Okay. For the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I am not going to buy you X. I can't say that.
Right.
I can't say that. So,
My two sons are on opposite ends of the spectrum.
They sure are.
And so my younger son works at a summer camp, and they just had a event for just the staff. I thought it was for the campers at first, which was very confusing to me, but it was a Great Gatsby night. And the outfit that this young man put together would have put Gatsby to shame. I mean, it was like unbelievable. And then the other one, it's like, look, you don't need to put duct tape on your shorts. Just buy another new pair of shorts. Yeah. boy, you can raise them in the same house and they come out differently for sure.
It is true. So I was thinking about the teenager benefits, teenager strengths, teenager attributes, because what are we going to talk about today?
Moodiness and irritability. Yeah. Because that's a huge part of being a teenager. And also, by the way, your son turned 13, so he's officially a teenager. But all of this puberty stuff really starts earlier than that. So a little earlier than girls than it does in boys. But by the time they're like 10 or 11 or 12, we're already seeing these big shifts in the way that they view the world and the way that they think. They're still going to play. So one of the things that's great about even like a 13-year-old is that they're going to have these big thoughts and they're going to talk about hypocrisy and they're going to talk about this and that. And then they're still going to want to build Legos, or they're still going to want to have silliness with their girlfriends and paint their toenails different colors. So it's a real place of in-betweenness, which is why we call it tweens when they're 11 and 12 and 13. But boy, those moods do show up. Not only do they show up in kids, though, I think we also should talk about the moods that show up in the parents. I mean, they're just people who are moodier than other people. Some people wake up in the morning and they're just as chipper as can be one morning, and then they wake up and they are just miserable. And it's an interesting thing to deal with if you are not a moody person, to manage the moods of other people.
Or manage your own moods. That's happening in my life right now. It's a work-related thing. I'm grateful it's not in my personal life, but it doesn't matter if it's my work thing. That's still 7 days a week. I'm aware of it, and it can put me in a really, really bad mood. And then I'm not as fun to work with. I'm not as fun to live with when I'm in this bad mood, when this very specific type of thing happens. So it's like, even if I'm aware of that mood, and I've been listening to Flusterclux from the beginning, clearly, I have awareness of it, but that doesn't mean like managing that mood is easy. Let's just acknowledge that when you get triggered and you're grouchy and you're pissed off, you can't just go vanilla ice cream super fast.
No, and you also don't want to just fake it and pretend that everything is great. There are times we have to do that. There are times we have to compartmentalize because we're in a work situation or things like that. But when you're in a bad mood and when you're feeling irritable. So for me, when I am in a bad mood, I would say that the emotion that I feel, if I guess we describe it as emotion, is irritability. Like I just feel short. I just feel critical. I just feel impatient. Things get on my nerves. I don't feel like I can roll with the punches. The other day I was listening to a podcast, and the way the person was talking was it was sort of inspiring. And I was sort of saying to myself, you know what? I just need to adopt that way of sort of putting things into perspective and managing things that aren't life altering and being able to go with, and I'm a pretty easygoing person in general. I don't consider myself a real moody person. But while I was listening to this podcast, I was also hiking by myself. So it was really easy for me to be like, you know what? I'm just going to work on being more patient and more loving and more whatever. And it's very hard to maintain that. It's very hard to keep that going when life gets in the way. One of the things with irritability, if we talk about crabbiness or irritability, is that we like to attribute it to the things that happen outside of us, right? So you're irritable because of this thing that happens at work, or I'm irritable because whatever happens at my work or in my house or whatever. And so we like to attribute it to that thing. And when people are moody, they tend to blame outside things for their moodiness. They tend to attribute their irritability to outside things, but it really is a state of disconnection. It really is a state of internal focus. So when I'm irritable, I'm in my head with some sort of narrative going on. The way for me to get out of irritability or for me to improve my mood actually is very often when I'm working, because then I'm stepping out of my internal compartment and now I'm externally connecting with other people. I'm sure some people can relate to this. Sometimes the most irritable I feel is at night when I can't fall asleep. I'm by myself. The house is dark. I'm not interacting with anybody, but you're in there having this internal narrative, keeping this thing going. Moodiness is a very often internal state, not based on external connection. And often the way we get out of it is, for one, is to just say it out loud, to say to somebody, like if this happens to you at work, you could just warn everybody, oh, you guys, this irritating thing just happened. I just want you to know I got my buttons pushed. Or I used to say to my kids, as I've said many times, my office is attached to my house. So when I finish my workday, like you work from home a lot too. My commute is 6 inches. And I would say, hey guys, I'm pretty worn out. I don't want to talk for a little while. So let me just move out of this state of irritability and then I can engage with you guys again. Because the problem with moodiness is that the people around you can't help but take it personally. And that's what happens very often with adolescents, with tweens and teens, is that they're moving through this moody period, which is pretty normal developmentally. They got a lot of hormones going on. They're figuring out a lot of stuff. Things get them going. And then we as parents take it personally. It's the same if you have a moody partner. You as a partner take it personally. Very often, that state of irritability and moodiness is not based on you. It's based on what your teen is dealing with, on what your partner is dealing with. But that said, it doesn't give them permission. It doesn't give them license to then take it out on you. So bad mood, bad behavior, two different things.
So we'll take a break. And what's comical is you can ask yourself, are we talking about our teens or are we talking about ourselves?
Or all of them.
All of us. Let's talk about the moodiness in the house. Back to school represents a time of change for families, and it can be hard to navigate.
The mental load of parenting is real, but this school year, there is help. Enter Skylight Calendar. Skylight Calendar is a smart touchscreen calendar and organizer for all your chores, groceries, meals, and to-dos. It automatically syncs Google, Apple, and other digital calendars your family uses, and it shows them all together on one beautiful touchscreen display.
Skylight Calendar is super easy to set up and use, and it's available in 2 sizes, 10-inch or 15-inch. The 15-inch size is wall mountable. It shows all family events together in one spot so you can see what everyone has going on each week. What I love is that if you're overwhelmed by all of those event flyers coming home, you can use the magic import feature and add them to your calendar in seconds by emailing them to your device. Any photo, PDF, email, or spreadsheet with event information.
It's 100% guaranteed. If you don't love the Skylight Calendar, you'll receive a full refund. There's a 120-day money-back guarantee and free returns.
As a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $40 off your purchase of a Skylight Calendar when you go to skylightcal.com/Flusterclux.
That's SKYLIGHTCAL.com/Flusterclux.
There are so many coaches today. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, even stress management.
All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day based on your measurements.
You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into the fuel that keeps you going. And because it's the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits. Easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness, sleep, all the stuff that matters to you.
It can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off those really difficult cravings.
If you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/fluster to get 15% off your Lumen.
That's lumen.me/fluster for 15% off your purchase. Thanks, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, so it is summertime and it is hot. It has been a really hot summer here in New England. I'm not complaining, but man, hydrating has been really, really important. And necessary so that I can keep doing the things that I love to do outside all summer long. There are electrolytes and essential vitamins, clinically tested nutrients from the number one powdered hydration brand in America, Liquid IV. All summer, I have one big tall glass sitting in the fridge. I have my water bottle that I take to the gym or take hiking, and I'm just drinking it all day long. I don't have a very good hydration habit, people. I should drink more water. This has been a key to me getting in the hydration that I need all summer. It's really, really delicious. It hydrates better than water alone. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. It's always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. If you get the Hydration Multiplier sugar-free product, it's got no artificial sweeteners, 0 sugar, 4 delicious sugar-free flavors. I love it. So indulge in hydration this summer with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code FLUSTER at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FLUSTER at liquidiv.com.
Okay, we're back.
So I like that you pieced together what you were saying before the break about we have these personal dialogues. We are blaming external factors of things that are making us moody. And then we have to learn not to take it personally when the kids do this. Say that a little bit more, because at what point is the responsibility of the parent to just take it versus helping your teen learn some skills here of better emotional management too? What's age appropriate? What's the goal?
Well, there's a difference between somebody just taking it and somebody taking it personally. Those are 2 very different things. So say you have, just for example's sake, say you've got a 15-year-old daughter and she is really irritable. Maybe there's stuff going on in her world. There's certainly stuff going on in her head. And she's hitting that hormonal swing and she's just really irritable and nothing you say is right. And she's highly critical and she's rolling her eyes at you. I would not say to a parent, so you should understand that developmentally, this is where she is. And so you have to take it. What I am saying is don't take it personally, which means that your response is going to be very different. So if you decide that you're just going to take it, that means that you're going to be like, you're being so nasty to me, but here, let me toast your bagel for you. You're saying like, oh, I'm just going to take it. I'm not going to call her out on it. I'm not going to let her know that she's being unpleasant. I'm just going to take it. That's not what we want to do. But on the other hand, we don't want to say, how dare you treat me that way? Everything I do for you, and the last thing that I need to hear from you is you complaining about blah, 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 blah. Because then it makes it an issue between the 2 of you.
Right. Or certain parents could escalate right away to don't get me started.
Yeah, right. And so that word escalate is a really good word, because when you're confronting somebody who's moody and irritable, it's very easy for it to escalate. So you don't want to take it personally, but you don't want to take it. So you say, look, I can tell right now that you're in a bad mood, or you seem to be particularly irritable or frustrated right now. Is there anything I can do to help? And they might say, no. And you say, okay, good to know. Here's where I draw the line. You can have your mood, but you can't dump your mood on me. So I use that vomiting analogy a lot, where when people are angry and somebody might say to me, well, I just get angry and I just have to get it out. And then once I get it out, I feel so much better. And I say, well, that's like you saying, like, I feel nauseous and I just have to vomit. And then once I vomit, I feel so much better. I just happen to vomit on my mom. So now she's covered in my vomit. I feel better. Now she's got to bear the brunt of it. So you want to call them out. You want to say, I get that you're moody. I get that you're feeling irritable. Probably have some very good reasons for that. Maybe some not so good reasons for that. I want you to pay attention right now to the way you're speaking to me and your tone, because I don't think this is about me, and I'm not going to tolerate getting slimed with your bad mood. You don't even have to ask them, or you don't even have to dig into what they're moody or irritable about. You could ask them, is there something I can help you with? Is there something you want to talk about? And if they go, no, you can say, great, but I'm not going to get slimed by your mood or your irritability. And then you say, so what would you like to do about that? And maybe they say, well, then I'm just going to leave you alone. You go, great, right? I'm just going to go up in my room by myself. Fantastic. I'm going to go for a run. See you later. And so the difference is when we take it personally, when we get defensive, when we start coming back at them with like, how dare you treat me that way? You're not going to teach the skill you want to teach, which is the ability to recognize that you're in a bad mood, to recognize that you're irritable, and then not justify behaving in a way that leads to conflict or disconnection or people not wanting to be around you. Being around somebody that's moody and that has license to just slime everybody with their mood, that's not a good social skill. Recognizing where you are, acknowledging it. I'm really irritable. I had a bad day. It's not something that you need to deal with or you need to fix, but I'm just letting you know, I'm on my last nerve. That's a good social connective skill that we want kids to see and to practice.
And then for the parent who might recognize they have a pattern of escalation in this, don't get me started. That's their reaction. There are some skills to learn there too.
Yeah, there's a chapter on irritability in the anxiety audit, and I talk about an interaction between a mom and a daughter, teenage daughter, single mom. And that was exactly what was happening, is that they were both coming to the end of their day with their grievances against each other. So they were both feeling worn out. They were both feeling irritable. And then it was sort of like pointing the finger. So if you know that you're in a bad mood, if you know that you're irritable about something, what if you were to say to your kids, look, I just don't have a lot of bandwidth right now, so keep your distance for a little while until I can sort of get my feet back under me. Saying that to kids, owning it. This is about owning versus blaming, which is something I talk about all the time. Owning versus blaming. If you had a really bad day, if something happened and you come home and your child has not loaded the dishwasher the way you wanted them to load it, and then you blast them, it doesn't help you figure out, how do I communicate to the people around me that I'm depleted? And how do I work toward connection rather than just blasting people? I mean, I know people, I'm sure you know people too, Robin. They're just always dissatisfied with those around them. And is it really true that this person moves through their life doing everything that they should do very competently, very skillfully, and all the other people around them are the screw-ups? That's not how it works. So it's about owning it and also recognizing that it's not a permanent state. That it becomes a permanent state if you develop a personality style, which is one of blaming and grumpiness and everything's somebody else's fault and nobody ever gives you what you need. But generally for tweens and teens, it's not a permanent state. So you want to show them and model for them and instruct them how to move through their moods, how to move through their irritability, rather than having it become who they are in their identity.
From the parent's perspective, here's a lesson that I had this summer. I think it's telling that I don't even now remember what happened that put me in like a really bad place. There was like a very bad thing that had happened in a relational conflict at work that was very stressful to me. And yet right now I can't even recall it, which I think is funny, of course. But I had to pick my son up from camp and I knew external connection and silliness were going to get me through it. But I knew I didn't have the moment to just like be silly and cheery right when I picked him up. So this is actually what we did. And it worked out really, really well. So I picked him up and I was like, how's it going? I'm happy to see you, like we talked about in the last episode. And I said, I had a pretty hard day and I'm still sort of like working through it. And I thought we'd go and get the car washed. We went through and we played like some AC/DC song. And then we actually got a free wash. So then we did the second one and we did a Led Zeppelin song. And like we played the music really, really loudly. And it was just like this fun moment together. And I knew I needed some sort of transition for us to have a nice night together. But it worked.
Well, and that's sort of this idea of like, we talk about with little kids, a transitional object, right? So they take a little something with them to their first day at kindergarten or whatever. And sometimes we have to have mood transitions. We have to have transitional mood moments where we on purpose do something that helps us unhook and find a different state of being, right? A different mood, a different way of being in the world. Yeah, I love that. That's such a great example.
We laughed that this car wash offers monthly unlimited memberships. So I was like, if we do this, how many times do you think you and I could go do this car wash before they look at us a little strangely? But you've taught that silliness can really, that was easy silliness. And then actually we did something later that night that was like real silliness, but I couldn't have jumped to real silliness right away. So I think that when we re-engage with our kids and we know we've had bad work days, being thoughtful about that can really pay off.
What it brings to mind is sort of the way that we use transitions to get from one part of our day to another. It reminds me of good old Fred Rogers, right? Like he taught about when he walked into his house, he would transition his sweater and his shoes. And it really helps kids to have some sort of transition. And it helps parents a lot too. I had this woman I used to swim with long ago, and she used to tell me that when she finished her day, she would walk into the house. Her day was really stressful, and her husband always had a cup of tea waiting for her, which is so sweet. So she would come in and she would have a cup of tea, and that was her transition into dealing with the rest of her day in a different way.
It reminds me when our kids were very, very little. Did you sing a transition song? It was like, bye, bye, park. We'll see you again real soon. Like when they were like 1.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell?
No. Well, we probably had some kind of transition. I mean, you think of when they're little, like there was always the bedtime story was a transition. That's what rituals are. Rituals are just to help us transition from one stage to the next in big ways and in small ways, right? Weddings and funerals are big transitions. It just helps us unhook from where we're stuck. So the other thing I want to talk about too is that there's so much mental health freaking out and so much worry from parents about their mental health of their teenagers and that kind of stuff. And so the word mood has really taken on this heaviness. So my child has a mood disorder or they're on a mood stabilizer. So I really want to normalize the fact that moods are really a normal part of development and that it's okay for your child to be in a bad mood and it's okay for them to have a sad day. For your child to have a mood disorder or for your child to be depressed, it has to go on for a long period of time. The diagnostic criteria is 2 weeks. And if you think about your kid being in a bad mood every day for 2 weeks, that would be concerning. But it's really okay for your kids to have a few bad days. It's okay for your daughter to come home from school and be miserable. And then your job is to help them recognize that this is not a permanent state, that moods come and go, and what are the things that make you feel better and what are the things that make you feel worse. Sometimes it does really help to have a good cry. So sometimes it really helps if you've got a teenager who wants to go up and put on sad music and just listen to some music that makes her cry and just let her get her cry out. And I think that parents right now are really afraid of their kids' emotions. I've been saying this a lot in the events that I've been at. More than ever, parents are really afraid when their kids feel things. Moods are normal. It is not a problem for your child to go through a bad mood, to be irritable, to be grumpy, to be short. If it's protracted, we want to pay attention, but it's really not helpful if you freak out, if you start to panic, if you feel like there's something wrong because my child's in a bad mood. Being in a bad mood is a normal part of life, and it's really a normal part of adolescence, a really normal part.
Let's just sort of take a step back and acknowledge that the parents who are listening to this podcast, who are thoughtful about their parenting and seeking to make their family's emotional lives better, their mental health better, they're trying to learn skills. They could already have a lot of anxiety patterns that up until their teenage years, when the kids were little, Their whole goal as anxious parents was to keep everybody comfortable. Let's just imagine you're very anxious parent, Betty. And Betty obviously I don't want my baby to cry. So I'm going to create all of these parenting rituals where I don't want my baby to cry, don't want discomfort. And then Betty's very good at figuring out how to keep a baby very, very happy. And then you have a kid who pretty good and easy. And then all of a sudden you have a teenager. The crying comes back, the moods come back, and this isn't an attachment parenting kind of solution or whatever else anymore. And then you don't know what to do. So I think that you're talking to parents who are confronted with the stress of big emotions potentially, who haven't seen them since the learning verbal cues years.
That's right. And the thing is, when your child gets older and your child gets bigger, you can no longer do all the things that used to work. So say you had a child who would get upset about this or upset about that. So you're exactly right, Robin, is that what anxious parents tend to do is they try and rearrange the world so that their child doesn't feel distress. It is really impossible to do that in a normally developing teenager. They are supposed to feel distress. They are supposed to feel uncomfortable. As we said at the very beginning, they're discovering the way the world works. They're getting pissed off about hypocrisy. They're seeing social injustice. They're getting mad. They're getting irritated. They want more independence than you're willing to give them, right? There's going to be points of conflict. And so when your child starts having these moods, when your child starts having these big emotions, it is not your job to rearrange the world, to rearrange your world, so that all of those feelings go away. What your job is to normalize them. And the key thing that you want your kids to hear from you over and over and over again is that moods and feelings come and go, that they are not a permanent thing, and that there are things we do that make our moods better and things we do that make our moods worse. There are circumstances beyond our control that make us feel badly or feel sad or feel angry. We can't control it all the time, but we want kids to understand their operating system, and we want them to have a good idea about how they manage their feelings that are going to show up. The thing that we have done in this country in the last 10 years that is not good is that we have over and over and over and over again told kids that if they feel a certain way, there's something wrong with them. And we've told parents that, and schools are nervous about that. And we hear over and over and over again that there's a mental health crisis and our kids are in danger. We have scared kids, teens, and parents. We have scared them in a way that makes it really, really hard for kids to feel normal emotions. It is really okay. Coaching you want to do is that this is not permanent. What can we do? What do you know about you? What's going to make it worse? What's going to make it better? Kids need to feel these things to know that they can get over the hump and to the other side. Preventing the feeling, taking away the feeling, not good.
There's some things in life that are okay to be a total crapshoot, like trying a new type of milk in your coffee.
The oat milk was terrible.
Or an Amazon impulse buy.
The underwear was weird.
Okay, well, what about serving your toddler a new pasta shape?
That is truly a crapshoot. That truly is.
Yeah, but you know what shouldn't be is finding a right doctor. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment.
Yeah, we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much, much more.
You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, where they're located, and who are a good fit for any medical need you may have. And you can choose those that are highly rated by verified patients. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score some same-day appointments.
This is such a good app to use because we know with families things come up. You've got swimmer's ear, you've got a UTI, you've got poison ivy, you've got a concussion. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Fluster to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today.
That's ZocDoc.com/Fluster. ZocDoc.com/Fluster. What is HelloFresh? With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. With a changing menu of 50 recipes to choose from each week, HelloFresh makes it easy to always find something the whole family will love. We have been using HelloFresh for the last several months, and what I love is that it has figured out the kind of foods my family likes, so it always suggests meals first that are usually pretty spot on, but there's always so many different options. And back to school season means shopping, after school activities, and a lot less free time. Skip the meal planning and grocery store runs with nutritious and delicious meals from HelloFresh. They handle most of the prep too, making getting dinner on the table easier and faster than ever. I gotta share my parenting hack. When people started asking me over and over again, what's for dinner? I kept saying, what do you feel like cooking? And I let them choose the HelloFresh meal that we were given. And guess what? Both my kids cook now. Most family cooks have a few pastas they make or a few ways that you prepare chicken. I love that HelloFresh has busted everything open for us. We now have so many different styles of pasta, and we prepare chicken in so many different ways. Nobody gets bored. It's great. HelloFresh's new 6-portion plans are perfect for feeding the whole family or to have leftovers for effortless lunches the next day. We've all learned little cooking techniques along the way that just make meals taste better. For a limited time, kids eat free. Go to HelloFresh.com/FlustercluxKids to unlock this exclusive offer. 1 free kids meal per box for 2 months while subscriptions are active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/FlustercluxKids.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight.
A new school year starting soon, and personally, I can't believe I have an 8th grader on my hands as my youngest. So if you're a parent and you want to make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills and continue building independence, for that, I recommend Greenlight.
Greenlight's a debit card and a money app for families. Kids can learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, and parents can keep an eye on kids' new money habits.
Then there's Greenlight's Infinity Plan, which includes same access to the financial literacy education that makes Greenlight a valuable resource for millions of parents and kids, plus new built-in safety features to give you peace of mind, everything from location sharing, SOS alerts for 911 dispatch, and car crash detection.
But at its core, Greenlight is unique because it builds autonomy with a chores feature that lets you reward your kids for honoring their responsibilities around the house. You can help kids get into their fall routine more easily than ever and build responsibility and autonomy, 2 things that I love.
And you'll remember to pay them.
Yeah, that's right.
I confess I was not so good about that before, and now I have no excuse.
So, no matter which features make the most sense for your household, Greenlight is the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and for families to navigate life together.
Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/fluster. That's greenlight.com/fluster to try Greenlight for free.
Greenlight.com/fluster. Okay, so now back to the show.
I love what you said and the way that we need to normalize the emotional roller coaster needs to be normalized again instead of feared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the emotional roller coaster is a part of being a teenager. It's a part of being a tween and a teen. The emotional roller coaster of disappointment and rejection, then the excitement of things going the way you want them to go, and the embarrassment and all of those things. Kids need to experience it with love and support and encouragement. But I just hear so often this language of, for one, I hear diagnostic language and mental health language and pathologizing language all the time. We've schooled our kids in being able to bump up normal feelings to a diagnosis. I think we really need to pay attention to that. Why do we need to pay attention to it? Because it's not working, everybody. The problems are getting worse, not better. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's not going to pay off. Kids need to be okay with their feelings. Emotional literacy, I talk about it all the time. And parents need to be okay with the emotional roller coaster that is just an inherent part of tween and teen.
And then also to wrap up, what is a mature adult's roller coaster?
Well, you use the word mature, right?
Right. Well, because this is about goal setting. This is about what are we working towards? What is being a fulfilled adult? What does that look like?
Right. A fulfilled adult, a mature adult is somebody who can feel all sorts of things and does feel all sorts of things, but doesn't go around blaming and vomiting their emotional states on everybody else. I will tell you, anxiety and depression are very, very much disorders of internal storytelling. Anxiety and fear are not the same thing. Fear is a response you have when you are confronted with something that's dangerous. Anxiety is the response you have when you are imagining, when you are creating, when you are telling a story about something that's not actually happening or not actually dangerous, but your body and brain are acting as if it is because you are giving it that message. So a mature adult who's got good emotional management skills is able to differentiate between, okay, this is the way I'm thinking, this is the way I'm feeling, this is the story that I'm telling, and somebody who is ruled by their emotions, who is just taken over by the emotions. Those are the people that stay very committed to their story and have a tendency to try and figure out what is it in their external world that's creating all of this stuff, and then how do I either blame it or get rid of it. What the goal is, what we're working toward is, how do I experience a range of emotions? How do I not get into a blaming pattern? How do I own it? How do I acknowledge it as normal? And then what are the steps that I take that make me feel better? And knowing what are the steps you take that make you feel worse. Honestly, like I say this stuff and I think about it, it's what I do every day. Every single day as I go through my normal life, I am trying to figure out, all right, am I telling myself a story right here that's not true? Am I getting sucked into some story? Am I making this bigger than it has to be? Or am I making it smaller than it has to be? What's the story that I'm telling myself that maybe isn't accurate? All day long, I do that. Not even consciously. All day long, you do that, Robin. That's how we manage our very, very busy brains, our very sticky imaginations. Emotional maturity and handling our moods, handling our irritation, handling our feelings. We're checking in with ourselves just to say, okay, so what am I doing with this particular story?
It's interesting because there, like I said, at the beginning of this show, I have this awareness of this thing that kind of always puts me in a little bit of an irritable mood. And I can share that it's basically when people that I'm working with, when people are not respectful of my boundaries. So it's not like I'm blaming them, but they were knocking on that wall that I think is inappropriate. So the burden's on me to manage that response.
Mm-hmm. Because you have two choices, two outcomes. One is that you are setting very clear boundaries, and so people are respecting them. Or you're setting very clear boundaries, and there are still people who are going to bang on that wall. How do you respond to the person banging on the wall, even though you've set clear boundaries? Now, maybe also you think okay, so maybe I wasn't really clear about my boundaries. That's a whole other issue. But there are people who are going to push your buttons that are gonna, not on purpose, they don't know it's your button. They're gonna push your buttons. Are you gonna give them a great big red button to push, or are you gonna work on your button? How big is your button?
Right. I should make my button a tiny little button.
Yeah, right.
So that I have this response in my head that when I know I'm getting cranky about something, I remember this conversation.
And then the response, when they push the tiny little button, it's like ding dong. Versus when they push the big button, it's like meh, meh, meh.
Right. Right. So that's the emotional maturity, emotional management lesson, is recognizing the control we have over our responses, the patterns that we have, and continuing to practice different responses.
Yeah. That's really all we have control over a lot of the time is our responses.
Right.
Right? It's our responses. And so just to sort of tie this up in a little knot here, when your child is having these big responses, and remember, they're still learning, they're not experts at this. I'm still learning, you're still learning. That difference between I'm not going to take it, I'm going to pull my button away, but I'm not going to take it personally. And if you can do those two things, if you can think, okay, so I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to make it all about me. How dare you say this to me? just like with your vendors, right? How dare you not respect my boundaries? Okay. They're not thinking about it that way. But then also, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to allow you to continue to press my button. You've got to own your part in it. Or I'm going to make my button really small. Yeah. It's all about our responses. And kids need a lot of coaching with this.
Well, that's why I feel like if a parent is working on this and thinking about this and can draw from a personal experience sometime, like it sounds like you had a really bad day and you don't really want to talk. I know how that feels. And that's the day I took us to the car wash. So if you're having a car wash day and you want to go, you just let me know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And sometimes we can develop that little shorthand too in a family. Like, is this a car wash day?
Exactly. I had never heard this before. This is very Mr. Rogers too, but a friend of mine told me that she and her family use this. Have you heard the thing where it's like, do you need to be heard? Do you need help? Or do you need a hug?
Oh, that's nice.
Or do you just want to be left alone? Could also be very much an option too. But I liked that. It's like, if a teen learns that they can say, I just want to be heard. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want you to tell me to get in my business and tell me what I'm supposed to do. Or I just want a hug, or I just want some privacy.
Yeah, that's nice. It's sort of the way that I talk about it, or I've heard before, is, are you just venting or are we problem solving?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. But I like adding, like, do you just need a hug?
Because don't we all?
Yeah, sometimes we really do.
Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.